Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we're going to be talking about Marvel's Punisher on Netflix. So you guys know the Netflix Marvel stuff has been generally acceptably okay, generally pretty good. Most of it has been like half really solid and then half pretty terrible, like within each individual season. We've had a lot of mixed signals from these series. And then we had things like Iron Fist, which was just utter poop. And then we had The Defenders, which was super mediocrity, borderline bad in most cases. So, you know, there's been some questionable things, but then we've had some things that were really awesome, like Daredevil was particularly good in some parts, and Luke Cage was mostly good. I really liked Luke Cage, and then we had David Tennant in Jessica Jones, which made that series. I guess technically are all different series, so that series was pretty good. But you know, we've had definite steps backward after we've taken steps forward. In each one, it's gone back and forth mostly. Now this one, they started back with Daredevil Season 2, right? Where they introduced the Punisher, which was awesome, and it made Daredevil Season 2 pretty good, except for those pesky Daredevil parts. This was pretty good. So now we have Punisher's own series. How is it going to be? That's the question, and I'm here to tell you it's very, very good. So the general plot for this is, I guess I should point out first, as far as spoilers go, I'm not going to cover anything that's like actual spoilery. I am going to talk about different characters, but none too specifically that it should be a problem. Okay, so you shouldn't have any issues, because I'm particularly picky about spoilers, and nothing I'm saying here would upset me if somebody had told me ahead of time. So that's what you should know. So the plot of this is basically he was the Punisher for a little bit. He got all of his revenge. He killed all the people involved, as far as he could tell, as far as he could go, involved directly with the death of his family. And then he's not the Punisher anymore. He's just living his life under a different name and whatever. He kind of gets roped back into it. He finds out there's a whole lot more going on, and he sets forth to solve his problems, so to speak. And through the course of the show, he doesn't really become the Punisher again until toward the end, and that's about it. And the only real difference is he's put the logo on his chest. So that's it. That's the plot. Frank Castle finds out there's people that need killing, sets about killing them. And there's lots to go on throughout that, but I'm not going to talk about any of the specifics really, because I don't want to ruin the story for you guys, because it's a really, really good story. So let's go ahead and talk about the writing a little bit. The writing on this show is leagues. It's so much better than the other Marvel shows on Netflix, or on TV also, regular TV, because those aren't so great. So yeah, the writing is just so good. They mixed the standard Punisher type stuff, which is him just being mad and wanting to kill people, with a little bit of tech stuff, a little bit of like covert ops type stuff, some spy games, some law, like it was a really, really complex show. There was a lot going on, but it never once felt muddy or murky or confused as to what it wanted to be about. It was all very cohesive, very well put together. And because of that, I think it was because of that, but maybe it was just because they're just really good writers, it was very well paced. It wasn't super heavy on action. We'll talk about the action a little bit more toward the end of this video, but it wasn't super heavy on action. Like it was a decent amount. I never felt like I needed more, but it wasn't that much, but I was still thoroughly engaged in what was happening on screen throughout the entire thing, between flashbacks and other characters and everything. It all just came together very, very nicely. It was so well done. One of the things that makes this so engaging, I think, is that they did a really good job with the dialogue. There's only really one character throughout the entire show who has dialogue that is questionable, and it's one of the FBI people. He's not like a super main character, but he's a relative regular character, and maybe it's his voice. I don't know, something about it threw off. It kind of took me out in his scenes. I kind of felt like he was acting rather than he was that character, but otherwise, and maybe that was just him, but otherwise it was generally really realistic and believable dialogue. It wasn't any cheesy one-liners or mantras or things like that. It was just like people talking like real people. And I think a lot of that comes from the actors themselves, because writers can write something, but the actors still have to deliver that in a believable way. So some actors are really good at that. Some actors are good at being a believable character, but not being a real person. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the actors in this make their characters real people. And that's something that you don't see in a lot of actors, and I think these guys did a really good job in their particular roles. So it helped the dialogue along, and everything felt so good and natural, and I think that's why it was really engaging. And then the last thing I want to talk about in terms of the writing is just that the show is clearly a darker show. I mean, there's a lot of killing, a fair amount of blood, but it's not a particularly dark show. I mean, it's a serious show, and there are definitely dark parts, but overall, it's not the kind of thing where you're watching it and you're feeling uncomfortable, or you're like, yeah, I don't enjoy it. Like, it's very well handled, very well finessed. Some shows are just very heavy-handed, and they're just like, bam, whatever the show is, that's what it is. It's either sappy or it's dark, like Walking Dead last season in particular was just like dark, dark, dark. Don't enjoy watching this. Don't have fun. This was a dark, let's call it dark, but it didn't feel that way. It felt, I don't know. I mean, it was enjoyable to watch. I guess unless you really don't like violence, in which case, why are you watching The Punisher? But it wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. I guess you'll have to see it for yourself. And if you have seen it, let me know what you thought about this in the comment section below. And if you haven't, let me know when you do. But I think it was just really well handled. They did it very well, so that you didn't feel like everything's bad, everybody's gonna die, this all sucks. Like, it was relatively it wasn't uplifting. I don't know how to describe it. You'll see. We'll talk about it in the comment section below. Okay, so we have to talk about the cast, because obviously the cast is a big deal, and I kind of touched on it a minute ago where I said, you know, the cast really brought the show to life, and I think that's the biggest part of this. A lot of the actors did a really good job, so let's go ahead and just break them down. Let's talk about the Punisher first, Jon Bernthal. He just did a really good job. Now, I'm not sure he has the greatest acting depth. Most of the roles I've seen him in, he pretty much acts the same way, but that's fine. A lot of actors do that. As long as you have the right roles for that actor, they can shine. And I think that's what this was. He did a really, really good job playing every part of the character. He was a really believable, angry, capably violent person. He was a believable nice guy taking care of some kids type of thing, and then he was also the let's say romantic and that kind of stuff. I believed in all of those roles that he was doing within this character, and he did just a really good job. I think he's kind of a nuanced actor where he adds a little bit of his own personality in every character that he does. You could tell he says some things that are kind of like what somebody might say when they're not reading a script, filler words and phrases and things, and I'm guessing he added those in because he said the same kind of things in other things I've seen him in, but because of that, it brings the character to life. It's more, like I said, more of a real person rather than just a character in a show. So I really liked his performance as Punisher. Very happy with it, no complaints at all, except, and this is getting picky, but I've always imagined Punisher to be a fairly large guy. Now, I didn't look up like his height and weight and stuff on some Wikipedia or something like that, but Jon Bernthal is a fairly small guy, so he is visually less imposing, but he does a good job in terms of the attitude and everything, so it's not really an issue. It's something to note, I guess. The next character we have is David Lieberman, which is the kind of tech guy who, I'm not going to really say much about him other than he has to interact a lot with the Punisher, and he's clearly the second main character. Like, he's on screen probably more than anybody else other than Punisher. Maybe he's tied with the third main character, but he's a really good counter character to the Punisher. He's not an action guy at all. He's the techie guy, and they just have a lot of really good dialogue, and he delivers the lines the way he should. He makes it funny. In fact, this show actually had me laughing. In fact, more than things like Thor, where they just threw in punchy lines to try to be funny. I know that's not a great comparison, but still, this had humor that actually fit the scenes, and it wasn't like, let's be funny for the sake of being funny. It was, this is the kind of thing somebody would really say in this situation, and so it's kind of funny. And I don't want to quote anything or spoil it for you guys, because that kind of takes out the humor if you're expecting it, like they do for every movie with every trailer. But you'll see, there are scenes in this show that are funny, even though it's the Punisher and everybody's getting killed and it's that kind of thing. So that just kind of speaks to the character, speaks to the actor, and speaks to how they wrote everything, and it just works out very nicely. The third character I want to talk about is the one that I would say is the third main character, and she's the FBI agent, Madani, and she does a really good job. She's the, well, I can't even say that. Let's just say there are good and there are bad people within the government agencies. She's one of the characters in one of those agencies, and she does have to deal with some of the other main characters, but she does a really good job. Does it matter? Like, did she do anything that any other actors couldn't do? I don't know. I think probably she's interchangeable, whereas the other two guys, they really fit their roles. Anybody could have played that role, but she still did a good job, so I'm very happy with that. And then lastly, there are a couple of different bad guys throughout the show, and I think they all did a good job. They're all fine, and one of them in particular you'll instantly recognize as that guy's always some kind of bad guy. Like the bad kind of bad guy that you don't root for, you don't like at all. He's one of those, and he plays that role, so it's fitting. And then the other main bad guy, he's fine. You're gonna, if you know the names of the characters, you're gonna understand who they are before that develops, but I don't want to talk about it at all. But the other main bad guy is okay. He does a good job. He's not a likable bad guy either, but he's not that kind of nasty, mean type of character that you can't get behind at all. So he does a good job. You know, it's a slightly nuanced character, not so much directly just a hated character, but he's hard to like. But he still delivers the role in a pretty appealing way, I guess. So that's pretty good. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the action. And as I mentioned before, there's not a ton of action in the show. I mean, it's definitely well placed throughout every episode, and there's definitely plenty of it. It's not like I needed more, but there's not a ton. But what they did put in was very well done. You know, I've said this before back when I was talking about Daredevil, and I don't think I talked about a couple of the other series. I should probably do that if you guys like these. I don't know if you do or not. But anyway, like a lot of the action was really hokey for Daredevil. Like you could see the thrown punches almost constantly. Like every punch was like that kind of thing. Whereas in this, it's a really, really well choreographed action. Like it's got a certain style to it. It's almost like it's got a little bit of the finesse of John Wick, like the hyper effective, lethal action you would expect out of somebody like the Punisher. So it's got a little bit of John Wick, but a little bit of the brute force of the Terminator. It's kind of like that, and it's very, very well done. Again, like every aspect of this show just feels super refined and so well handled. It's so good. And here's the thing. A lot of people really like that Punisher, was it called Warzone movie, where it was like a particularly brutal Punisher, and I didn't like the fact because it felt to me like they were just doing things for gratuitous violence, just to get it on the screen, whereas this, there's a lot of killing and that kind of thing, and some of the things that happen to particular characters are particularly violent, but none of it is gratuitous violence. Like you don't feel uncomfortable watching it. I don't, anyway, but I did feel uncomfortable for that, you know what I mean? Like, not like I need to go throw up or anything, just like I don't really want to see that type of thing. Whereas this is not, it's not like that. Like there's a ton of blood, but there isn't like a whole lot of like guts and viscera and that kind of stuff. It's not particularly graphic, I guess we could say. It's a realistic amount of blood and stuff. There's a lot of it, but it's not gross, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And then just the last thing I'll say about this action is it kind of goes back to the first part of the action where I said it's really well choreographed. It's a very heavy action. It's a very heavy style of action where it feels like every hit is landing. People are actually getting hurt. And I think that's just because you don't have a lot of those thrown punches and things. There's a lot of heavy contact, like even when you're shooting, like it's very well done. Every part of it is just, it's weighty. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. So I guess I'll just leave it there. So that's it, guys. That's all we have to talk about. I think it was just an absolutely fantastic series. I think it's by far the best of all of the Marvel series. Like, not even close to anything else. Any of the episodic stuff, this blows them all away. So if you're a fan of The Punisher, or if you're a fan of Marvel in general, or if you're a fan of any of the stuff that you would think is part of The Punisher, you should probably watch this, because I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I think you guys will too. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. This is a spoiler-free video, technically, so if you're going to spoil something in a comment, make sure you put spoils. Don't put spoils. Put spoiler, or spoiler alert, and then like skip a line, and then type it out, okay? We don't want to spoil stuff for anybody, so that's how we're going to do it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Let me know if you like this kind of video. If you do, we'll do more, and that'll do it. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff, so make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and in the meantime, keep collecting.